Welcome. Welcome to you at home and welcome to our studio audience. This is the Evidence series, and in this programme we have a very interesting topic for you indeed. I'm Gillian Joseph, one of your hosts, and I can promise you some fantastic discussion coming up later on and brilliant music, as always, from Ken Burton and his band. Ken. Thank you, Ken. Excellent as always. And this is Dwight Nelson. Dwight, the topic for the evening.
Gillian, you are a professional mother. I have met your two little angels. You know the issues of justice in a family. How do you handle it?
Absolutely. The phrase that I most hear from my 5-year-old is, "You're such an unfair mama. Why do I have to go to bed now? You're so unfair." She's only 5, but she's already got a sense of what's right and wrong and how she should be treated.
And what's amazing is we take that sense of fairness right into our adulthood. So tonight, the issue of justice, human justice, we want to talk to a justice of the peace, a professional justice seeker. How can we get a handle on this quest for justice and actually finding it in our lifetime?
How easy is it to achieve justice, and can you really achieve equality for everyone?
Justice. What's justice? Who decides what's fair? Yeah, we have a legal system, but is it always fair? And what's fair about being bullied or abused or losing someone you love? We all seem to want justice, but most of the time, we can't find it. Instead, we find a world full of injustices. Maybe there can't be any justice. And who of us are just? Can we be trusted to treat each other fairly?
When you think about issues of justice, I can't think of a better person to be sitting at our front table tonight than a justice of the peace. How do you deal with justice as a justice of the peace? Ian Sleeman.
Well, you have to sit in a court with fellow magistrates, and you have to decide whatever case comes in front of you.
Anybody comes to the court?
Yes, an important thing about justice is that it not only has to be done, but it has to be seen to be done. So in every court, you have to have the press there, you have to, people from the street can come and view justice, and that's proper justice.
So what kind of issues of justice do you struggle with at the local level?
Well, at the local level, the magistrates' court gets to deal with a lot of the boring stuff, traffic offences and petty
Have you met
burglaries.
any of these people before?
No. Some of them look a bit shady, but most of them are okay.
All right. So petty issues, minor violations?
Yes, any juicy cases, as we call them, they get sent on up to the higher courts, but they have to come to the magistrates' courts first.
Do you find it hard to deal with justice?
Very difficult.
Why?
Well, sometimes a mother will stand in front of you and she'll say, "My son is such a wonderful son. He's so good at home, and he's dressed in a smart suit, and he looks wonderful." And then you look at all the evidence and this fella must be guilty. And so we go and confer and come out, he's guilty. Then we find he's got a long, long string of offences for the similar burglary or whatever, and you realise you got it right. But you don't know that at the time.
We hunger for justice, we long for it, and yet we struggle with it when it comes to administering it.
It's a very tough decision. It's a very tough decision.
Let's keep journeying through that struggle tonight, Gillian. Some music, though, to lift our spirits as we think justice.
I'm hoping that I see Ian next time in court. I do a lot of court reporting, so I'll be looking out for you, Ian. Our next song is called Family of Man, and it's going to be performed by Paul Lee from London. Paul, tell us what the song's about.
This is a song of justice. It's about unity and love, and something that we can all share together in the family of man.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Lee.
desolation, it was proclaiming a simple truth. It spoke of freedom and understanding and the brotherhood of youth. For we are brothers and we are sisters in the family of man. Our endeavor is peace forever, and the future lies in our hands. Do not dismiss us as foolish dreamers. Though we are many, we are one. Let us discover what divides us, then together we can overcome. Yes, we are brothers and we are sisters in the family of man. Our endeavor is peace forever, and the future lies in our hands. We are brothers, sisters in the family of man. Our endeavor is peace forever, and the future lies in our hands. Lies in our hands.
Thank you, Paul. That was wonderful. Well, sometimes the injustices that we experience, we feel that they're so great. We complain about many things, that we don't earn enough money, we haven't got a big enough car, we haven't got a big enough house. But what about people who don't have a home, no rights and no voice? Where's their justice? Well, photojournalist Gabriel Torcello has dedicated his time to giving these people a voice.
Photography for me is a language, and I've always been interested in this kind of language, which is universal. It allows people to look and to think and to make their own opinion. And in the beginners, I used to work as a commercial photographer, which it was very interesting, but didn't give me much satisfaction. So I was exploring different fields of photography. And then I decided to leave all my work as a commercial. And I decided to live very close with people who suffer injustice. To feel what they feel and to capture the photograph and to let people know about, especially in areas where human rights organizations are not allowed or there is no freedom of the press. Those organizations are not allowed because people suffer, because there is just injustice. There is a shot, a photograph I took in Srinagar in '94, and this man was killed because he broke the curfew. He was tortured. But this man broke the curfew only because he had to use the toilet. This is injustice, of course, because they see only what they want to see. They don't go into the mind and the heart of a person.
Very moving images there. Well, injustice seems to be all around us. Although in the West we think that we live in a pretty just society, we see injustices at home, at work and in the playground. It is all around us. But what do we really think that justice is?
Justice, en globalité, c'est la loi. C'est la loi.
La loi?
Oui, la justice, oui.
Est-ce que vous arrivez à sentir des injustices dans votre vie?
Oui, beaucoup, beaucoup même.
Beaucoup?
Beaucoup, oui.
Lesquelles?
Mais bon, c'est à des niveaux, un peu partout, dans les logements, dans la vie de tous les jours, oui. Les difficultés que tout le monde rencontre, voilà, qui ne sont pas faciles à résoudre.
Ich bin halt streng christlich und lebe immer nach dem Motto, man soll alles mit sich machen lassen und irgendwann rächt sich schon alles auf Erden. Das heißt, man wird immer seine Gerechtigkeit erhalten und wie in der Bibel schon steht, wenn dir einer auf die rechte Wange schlägt, dann sollst du auch die linke hinhalten und dann wirst du irgendwann auch deine Gerechtigkeit dann erhalten.
Hat es Grenzen?
Für mich nicht, nein. Ich weiß nicht, wie andere darüber denken, aber für mich nicht.
From the schoolyard bully to the international oppressor, injustices seem to be everywhere. Life just isn't fair. And what's more, there doesn't seem to be very much that we can do about it. Sometimes injustice comes very early. And that's been the case for Milan and Biljana Roksic. This is their story.
Ja sam imao nepune 2 godine kad sam došao.
Pa 3 godine sam imala.
Pa to i nije baš neki doživljaj. Ja sam kao mali došao ovde i to je ostalo, mislim. Tu imam kao svoju porodicu i imam ljubav svojih roditelja. Ja ih zovem mama i tata, imam i braću kao. I tako da nije baš ostavilo trag.
Ovdje naši roditelji nama pružaju ljubav, kao što i svi. Kao što je moj brat rekao, imamo i svoju braću. Nismo sami.
Roditelji, oni su bili valjda nešto bolesni, pa nisu mogli da nas drže. I onda su nas dali u dom i tako smo mi došli ovde.
Ne praktično u dom, ali dali su nas jednu porodicu.
Da, nismo bili u domu.
U domu nismo uopšte bili, niti bi volili da budemo u domu.
I mi smo odmah su nas doveli ovamo. Nismo ih posetili, ali znamo da su u Beogradu i nikad ih nismo ni vidjeli.
Možda, htjeli bi da je vidimo, ali bolje da ih ne vidimo. Znači, posle biti što smo ih vidjeli, a sad, naravno, da bi kao svaka deca htjeli, posle bi se razočarali. Možda.
Nepravda, to možda bi moglo, ali teško, zato što kad te neko ostavi, više ne možeš. Možeš da mu oprostiš, ali opet to ne bi bilo ono baš pravo da si bio od rođenja sa roditeljima. Tako. To ne bi bilo isto kao i.
Pa može. Po meni može. Možeš nekada mu oprostiš, nekada kažeš pa dobro, ajde sad. Možda je baš to tako moralo, pa ajde da mu oprostiš. A nekada bi rekao, a što ja da opraštam njemu? Onda.
Pa ponekad i jeste teško, ali često ne pokušavam da razmišljam o tome. I tako da uopšte ne razmišljam o tome, nego sad. O sadašnjosti, šta ovde radim i tako.
Pa ponekad razmišljam. Možda, znamo da nas je majka i otac ostavili. Zbog što su bili bolesni. Ali često, nikad ne razmišljam Zašto, kako i to sve?
What a sad, sad story. I tell you, talking about tugging at your heartstrings.
Absolutely.
I mean, where's the justice in this? 2 kids in tears without their parents.
And constantly having this sense of injustice.
Yeah. It's just the reality of life on the planet these days. We're delighted to have with us somebody who is a professional justice seeker. I'm talking about Mark Littleton. Good to have you, Mark, here at The Evidence. You're with Liberty Organization. You champion human rights, civil rights within the UK.
Within the UK, yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, why is it that justice is so hard to achieve?
Well, I think we've got to get down to what justice is. What we're looking for, what we're striving for, is a fair procedure and a fair outcome for every single human being. You can't have justice just for half the people or just for 95% of the people. Right. If anybody in this society is denied justice, you can't claim that that's a just society. So given this is something we've got to give to everybody...
Then that means there's no just society on earth.
I think there isn't a perfectly just society on earth. Having just seen that film, there are some societies that provide justice a lot better than others, but I don't think anyone's got the perfect answer yet.
And is everybody's justice the same? Is there any such thing as universal justice?
Well, I think justice has got to be universal. I think it's got to apply to every human being, irrespective of gender, irrespective of age, irrespective of faith, racial background and so on. But of course there are differences and there are conflicts. Different cultures and different societies have slightly different attitudes some of the time. And I think that those conflicts need to be resolved, but I think most of them can be. I don't see that there is any real reason why Christians, Muslims, Jews, atheists, agnostics can't actually live side by side in a just society, respecting their differences, but realising everybody needs to be treated fairly too.
But how hard is that to achieve this justice across?
I think it's extremely difficult, because what we tend to see is when anything goes wrong, whether it's a war, whether it's a particular incident like 9/11, for example, that you tend to find people want to actually deny justice to a certain group of people, whether it's the people who were seen as perpetrating the war, whether it's seen as suspects who might be involved in such atrocities in the future. And so you tend to get recriminations. When bad events happen, the reaction tends to actually be bad for just societies.
Do you suppose, Mark, though, that part of the problem is who defines justice? I mean, whose definition are we going to live with? Do we have different definitions depending on where we live, cultures? How's that work?
It's extremely difficult, and of course there are different religious cultures certainly that have different approaches to justice, but I don't think it's anything like as difficult as we sometimes kid ourselves, as we're sometimes made to believe. I actually think that there is an awful lot in common between an awful lot of the cultures, and actually if we took the effort just to share our ideas a bit more, to talk more freely and frankly, rather than to live in more closeted communities, we might actually get closer to creating a just world.
So we might be hiding behind this facade of, oh, it's just too difficult to even try.
I think that's right. It is difficult, it is a challenge, but it's probably one of the most important challenges facing us today.
It's got to be. I mean, the stories like what we just saw, you know, we've got to bring an end, if we can, to such injustice. Now look, we can't all join Liberty. We can't all be lawyers like you. We can't all go to the hot spots of earth. How can I, citizen of the land, bring justice, or at least help preserve it or propagate it?
I think that we've all, and everybody can do this in their day-to-day lives, I think we've all got to understand each other a little bit more, talk to each other a little bit more, condemn each other a little less, rush to judgment a little less readily. And that's something that people can do in their own neighbourhoods, in their own streets in which they live, to actually make the effort to speak to the people who perhaps are just on the other side of the tracks, not the whole world away, or perhaps people that don't necessarily go to the same church as you all the time, or parents whose kids don't go to the same schools. Make that effort, speak to people who are different, and if we speak to each other a little more calmly, a little more coolly, I think a just society will be an easier thing for us to create, and perhaps we can start to do it from the bottom up.
Thanks, Mark Littlewood, for giving us a vision of the possibility of that justice. Glad to have you on the evidence. Thank you very much. Yeah.
This next song is called Where the World is Heading. It's going to be performed by Miroslav Karoda from Poland. Miroslav, can you tell us what the song's about?
This is a song of protest. Where's the world will go?
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miroslav.
I've seen a flying bird that let go forced to fly. I've seen a forest of burned down trees. I've seen a starving people. I've seen the might of war. What is the world heading for? Who can tell us now where's the world will go? Will it ever slow down? Will it shortly fall? Who will stop our time? Who will prevent our crime? Who will lead us? Who will teach to tell right from wrong? I've seen relentless wars, blood flood in our soil. I've seen the evil released by man. It spoke with human voice and had a human face. It killed our conscience, stole our souls. Where's the world but now? Full of human fault. Will it ever slow down? Will it shortly fall? Who will pay the price for our guilty hearts? Will we ever see in the mirror a human face? When you look right in the sky, you dream of a different world. No suffering, no wars, no hatred, no untruth. Lord, please forgive us, forget our deeds. Who can tell us now where's the world will go? Will it ever slow down? Will it shortly fall? Who will stop our time? Who will prevent our crime? Who will lead us? Who will teach to tell right from wrong? Where's the world but now? Full of human fault. Will it ever slow down? Will it shortly fall? Who will pay the price for our guilty hearts? Will we ever see in the mirror a human face?
Miroslav, that was a high-energy song. Where is the world heading? I don't know about you, but I'm still brooding over those two kids that we just listened to a moment ago. And I'm thinking of the injustice of that. Don't you just want to solve all the problems of the world and just be a 1 or 2 or 3-man, 3-woman crusading team and set it right? We live with injustice. Let me tell you a story. This is a true story. I interviewed her on a television program I have a couple years ago. Her name's Sunny Jacobs. Sunny and her husband, incarcerated, charged, jailed for murder. They pleaded innocent. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. Too bad. The husband, get the picture now, the husband is executed, all right? Gone. 17 years later, previously suppressed evidence comes to light. They had made a mistake. Sunny and her husband are not guilty. 17 years later, they let Sunny out of jail. Only when she comes out now, she's a widow. When she comes out now, she's an orphan. Both her parents died while she was incarcerated. When she comes out now, her little girl She's a grandmother because her little girl grew up, got married, and had a child. And she comes out now not being able to mother the children she had. Talking about injustice, one word, injustice. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you pay a dead man back? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Justice got miscarried. I tell you, Sonny Jacobs, I'm still thinking of those two kids from Serbia. Justice, or the lack of justice, that is our journey tonight. I want to tell you, my purpose this evening is not to get into the virtues of capital punishment, the death penalty. Shoddy prosecution, yeah, suppressed evidence, forget it. Let's just deal with justice, or the lack thereof. I'm thinking of the great Welshman poet. Isn't he your poet? Dylan Thomas? Let's put his words on the screen. Great is the hand, I like this, great is the hand that holds dominion over man by a scribbled name. Only now we are learning of the scribbled signatures of dictators all over this planet who by the flourish of a pen have sent thousands and thousands to an unjust death. Ladies and gentlemen, injustice, it is what we live with. To be human, I suppose, means we're going to have to confront it. But the great irony, this is what's so amazing. You and I, we can smell injustice a mile away. What we have a hard time agreeing on is justice. Have you noticed? Oh man, we see those two kids, wrong. But what about justice? Because you know there are some cultures where if you steal something, you get a slap on the wrist. Other cultures, they'll cut your wrist off. Now there's a universe of difference between the two. Some cultures, when your husband dies, lady, you get the right to remarry. Other cultures, when your husband dies, lady, you get the right to be buried alive with your husband. Choose your culture carefully. That's my counsel. Yeah, what do we do? Justice. Who's defining justice? Let's put Homer on the screen. Oh, this is back to secondary school days, isn't it? Homer's Iliad. Homer writing, this is the 9th century BC, by the way. Injustice, swift, erect, and unconfined, sweeps the wide earth and tramples over mankind. 9th century BC, 21st century AD, ladies and gentlemen, nothing has changed on this terrestrial ball. Now has it? It has not. You want to talk about justice? How about some subtle shades of injustice? Does this sound unjust to you? Unjust, perhaps? What about a world where people spend, get this, $12,800 US, all right? Where they spend $12,800 a night for a room at the Hotel Meurice in Paris, while millions of others the world over are homeless. $12,800, do you know what? That's what a lot of us pay for a house in a year in our country. Where's the justice in that? You want to talk about a world where somebody will shell out $370,000 for that beautiful Ferrari, and there are 1 billion people on this planet who wonder, do I have anything to put on the bottom of my feet? Where's the justice in that? You want to talk about Toronto just a few years ago. They auctioned off a bottle of German wine, vintage 1735. You know how much that bottle of wine went for? $85,000 down the gullet. 85. Where is the justice in this? Justice. Injustice. Our theme tonight. I was standing in a hospital waiting room. Young man, 23, 24 years old. His name is Chris. He's gone in for exploratory surgery. He's been having some pain in his stomach. The surgeon comes out after the exploratory surgery, gathers his young wife. She's 20, 19. They have a little baby already. Chris's mother is there. And the surgeon pulls down his green mask, and he quietly announces to the group, we found this growth the size of a grapefruit behind Chris's stomach, and I suppose he has 6 to 8 weeks to live. Chris's mother froze. And then at the top of her lungs, screamed into my face, where is your blankety blank, blank God now. And then bursting into tears, stormed out of the waiting room, and we're all just frozen like this. Because the moment you introduce God into the equation of justice or injustice, you've suddenly shifted, seismically shifted the ground beneath our feet. And yet Immanuel Kant did exactly that. That great German philosopher, do you know what he said? He said he says there is going to have to be a judgment someday. Because there is a God, he said, okay, if there's a God, he is just. And if he is just, in fact, let's put Kant's little bit of logical rumination here. If God is just, there will have to be some final reckoning in another life because there is no justice in this life. He's right, isn't he? He says, look, if you accept the premise of God and you accept the thought that God would be just, then no matter what happens here, surely there will come a day of reckoning. Somewhere beyond this life, God will have to, if he's just, settle the scores because it's awfully lopsided tonight, is it not? Now, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I happen to believe that Immanuel Kant, that brilliant German mind, is right. I believe there is a God, and I believe that he's a just God. But the moment I say just God, then I'm forced to confront the reality of injustice in this world. Hey, what do we do? Well, you know what? I would rather, quite frankly, there be no God at all. If he is not going to pull all these loose frays together and somehow deal with the issue of human injustice, I would just as soon find, thank you, that there be none of you at all in this universe, no God at all. Why have a God? Well, who cares? If he can't deal with the injustice of life, we don't need him. And quite frankly, I think I might take that other worldview. You know, the worldview of material science that says, hey, because they're able to deal with justice much more easily. They say, well, come on, you know, you got here by accident, you're going to leave by accident. Who cares? Of course there's going to be pain. Of course the equations will never quite tally, but that's just the joy of being stuck in this universe. I would rather have that than to believe that there's a God who could do something, but in the end does nothing to right the score, the awful score. I'm still thinking of those two kids and that girl sobbing and saying, I wonder if my parents would want me still. Whew. Injustice. Having said all that, I need to testify again to you. You've heard me say this a few times. I do believe in God. I do believe that he is a loving God. Now, how do we correlate all of that into some sort of logical understanding? Well, I believe that God wants me to love him freely. Can I put that on the screen here? Yeah, I believe he wants me to love him freely. And therefore, follow this little bit of logic. Because he wants me to love him freely, I am sure that he knows the great sense of aroused anger over injustice. And I am certain that he would want me to say, surely you could do something about this, and you're not going to leave it undealt with, are you? So just out of that free choice, we talked about that moral dimension to love last night, just out of the free choice, somehow I'm thinking, I can't explain how it's all going to work, but I'm thinking that there's going to be justice one day. I don't know how to figure out how God's going to do it. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, may I put this on the screen, the Holocaust? May I put the AIDS babies on the screen? How are you going to score this right? How are you going to put it down? Tally it up in the end. 6 million Jews gone? I'm not a Jew. But something is terribly wrong with 6 million gone at one man's command. Something's wrong. Will that ever get settled? Will it ever get righted? Whoa, tonight's subject is ponderous indeed. But again, remember, just because I don't understand something doesn't mean that it's not going to happen or doesn't take place. I don't understand how the earth is on a tilted axis and rotates. Do you? I mean, why is it on a tilted axis? Step up. It's this way. Explain that to me. I don't know. Nobody, well, what can we say? It's just that way. Well, we don't have to understand it to make it reality. That's my point. In that great novel, The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan, the brother, says to his other brother, Elisha, a monk. Very ponderous. He speaks in the Queen's English. And I want to put the quotation on the screen here. Let me make it plain, he says. I believe, like a child, that suffering will be healed and made up for, that all the humiliating absurdity of human contradictions will vanish like a pitiful mirage, like the despicable fabrication of the impotent and infinitely small Euclidean mind of man. Whoa, it's going over my head. Do you understand that? Me neither, but let's get to the end of it, because I think it gets clear as we get near the end. I believe that in the world's finale, at the moment of eternal harmony, something so precious will come to pass that it will suffice all hearts for the comforting of all resentments, for the atonement of all the crimes of humanity, of all the blood they've shed, that it will make it not only possible to forgive, but to justify all that has happened with men. But though all that may come to pass, I don't accept it. I won't accept it. Ladies and gentlemen, I do accept it. I do believe that somewhere, sometime, the score will be righted and the wrongs set right. Yeah, I believe that. Otherwise, I can make no sense out of God. I accept this God because He says, look, you're just going to have to believe. You're going to have to take something without all the reasons. Like Blaise Pascal said, I like this line, the heart has reasons that reason can never know. You just don't have to give it. You don't have to be able to logically explain everything in life. There are some reasons that are just there. Hold on to them. God is a just God. So I hold on to it. What reasons do we have for final justice? Well, I'm going to tell you that the reasons, I don't get the reasons from listening to the wind. You have lovely breezes that blow about your countryside here. It doesn't tell me a thing. I look at the flowers, your daffodils are up now. I say, I don't find the reasons there either. I don't find it in nature. I don't find it in the waves down by the cliffs of Dover. The reasons, you know where I get them? From an ancient document. And in that document that I have read, I hear the quiet promise that somehow the pieces are going to fit one day. I read in that document about a bringing to justice of the entire human race. And so for the next few moments, I want to share from that ancient document. Have you guessed the name of the document yet? You're wondering, what would that be? That would be the Holy Scriptures. Let me just read to you a few lines from this. When Jesus of Nazareth was here, He spoke these words. God will reward each person according to what he has done. There's going to be an accounting one day. And everybody gets the reward, according to how you lived your life on this planet, all right? Let's put another one up. This would be quoting God. In the book, anyway, vengeance is mine, I will repay. That little girl secretly abused by her daddy. Shh, honey, now this is just a little secret between you and me. Don't you ever tell your mother, okay? That little girl that has held that debilitating secret all her life. God says, I know. I will take care of that. Yeah, all those signatories of the dictators. Yeah, I will repay. I will take care of it. Vengeance is mine. I'm talking about this God who over and over in this ancient book says, one day I'm going to bring justice and tie those last frayed strings off for you. He is a just God. Let's put that on the screen, please. And He cannot not, He cannot not bring justice in the end. That's what I happen to believe. Let me share a handful more. The book is full of them, but let me share just a few more. You say, no, Dwight, are you trying to convince me with this? No, I'm not. What I'm asking you, I've done this before, I'm asking you to imagine. Just imagine that, in fact, they're true. You can suspend judgment, but imagine, what would life be like if, in fact, these declarations were true? So let me put them on the screen for you. Here's another one. For He comes, speaking of God, to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples with equity. One day, God will judge the entire human race. Let's put another one up. But because of your stubbornness and your unrepentant heart, you are storing up wrath against yourself for the day of God's wrath. When His righteous judgment will be revealed, God will give to each person according to what he has done. Let's put another one up. It's the same one we read a moment ago. It is mine to avenge. I promise you. I promise you. I will repay. I can't begin to understand, ladies and gentlemen, how this is going to happen. I mean, I look again to the heavens, as I will tonight when I leave this place, this cafe. 100 billion galaxies. Look at that. I have to assume that the one who placed these galaxies into existence surely will find a way. He must have the power to make right the wrongs that cry out for justice. You want to talk about economic injustice? I want to tell you one of the obscenities of the United States. It's an obscenity to me. How can you explain how great super jock sport heroes? I happen to like the New York Yankees. You don't know what baseball is, but it's cricket gone sour, and so I happen to like the New York Yankees. And just a few weeks ago, A-Rod, Alexander Rodriguez, remember the Texas Rangers, was bought by George Steinbrenner, the infamous owner of the New York Yankees, for an obscene sum of money. Do you understand that we have homeless people by the droves in the United States that can't even eke out an existence, and we're paying our super jocks these millions and millions for their sport? Something does not add up. I got these two kids that I can't forget in Serbia who can't contact their parents. Well, the Bible doesn't leave economic injustice out of the picture. Let's put this is a whoa. Can you see it there? Now listen, you rich people. The Bible often takes the side of the economically marginalized and the socially disenfranchised. And I love that about that ancient book. It takes the side of the oppressed. I'm very grateful for that. Listen now, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered innocent men who were not opposing you. Be patient then, brothers, until the Lord's coming. I'm going to settle the score one day. Trust me. Trust me. What's going to happen when He comes? There it is. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait till the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of men's hearts. In other words, yep, justice and evil now. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, sorry, sorry. The poor are oppressed, but just you wait. There is a day of reckoning coming. Boy, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine that these lines might be true. Can you see how it would change the way you approach your life? The injustices that you suffer? I mean, if you're suffering injustice now, and you know what? Wherever you turn, there's nobody that's getting you out of this terrible, terrible crisis. But the good news is somebody is going to have the last word. And you may not be able to sit down with a justice of the peace, Ian, like you are. You may not be able to find anybody to resolve your inexplicable crisis. It's okay. There is somebody. Somebody who says, you wait, just hold on. Don't you give up. Don't you quit. Wait, I'm going to repay. I will settle the score one day. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I believe. I believe there is a God. I believe He's a loving God. I believe He's a God of justice. and that He will deal with injustice. One more line, let me put this up here. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. There you have it, my friends. Just a smattering of lines from that ancient document, but enough, I am sure, to show us that just because there is no justice now does not mean that there will not be a full and final accounting of justice one day. With you, I must tell you, I cry out for that. And when I watch that piece, it's still in my heart. When will we settle this terrible score? It's awful. God says, I will repay. To men and women innocent rotting in prison, I will repay. For the tens of thousands of dollars for that lousy bottle of wine, while most people in this world drink from water that you wouldn't even bathe your dog in, I will repay. I will take care of it. For a single brutal leader like Hitler or Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Saddam Hussein, I will repay. I'll take care of it. Trust me. I have the videos. You suppose God has videos? He's probably moved on to DVDs, don't you think? I have the DVDs. I have the evidence. I will repay. Trust me. Trust me. But in the midst of all of this, hip, hip, hooray, there's going to be a judgment one day to restore justice. Whoa, wait a minute. Some of you are already brightly moving to the inescapable next point. And that is, there will not only be judgment for Hitler and Hussein, there will be judgment for me and for you. The record has been kept on everybody. And every name, I think we read that just a moment ago, everyone is come into the judgment one day. And all this clamoring for justice out there, suddenly that finger's saying, wait a minute, wait a minute, Dwight. What about your own secrets? I blush at my secrets. Not my life lived in public. I work very hard to be circumspect and proper, as you are over here. But I have secrets, and I blush at the very thought of those secrets. They're going to be exposed one day. I mean, come on, every thought, every word, every deed, please. You see, we can't have it both ways, ladies and gentlemen. If you want a God of justice, He's going to be just. And that means just for you, not just for them. See? So it is a conundrum. How do we get out of it? Well, somehow we need to deal with this Jesus of Nazareth. I have suggested to you before this moment that I believe He did something for the human race. And that when He lived His life here, and when eventually by death He went to the cross, something happened in the matter of justice and guilt and my guilty conscience. And something was done for humanity that apparently suggests that you can stand before God in this final judgment with all that you have done wrong, but that you can stand before Him forgiven. Something was done there. I can't explain this. Ladies and gentlemen, what can I tell you? It's just that something happened and that God Himself is saying, I can wash it all away. I got the records, I got the DVDs, but I can wash it all away. But then that introduces, of course, another conundrum, and some of you bright minds are already jumping ahead to that and saying, hey, wait a minute, where is the justice? If He just washes it all away, I mean, is He going to do that to Hitler? Is He going to do that with Saddam Hussein? Just wash it all? I can never let that happen. Well, that's a tension. Because you see, we not only have a God of justice, but I remind you that if the ancient document is correct, we also have a God of mercy, rather. He's not just, He's merciful. And so when you combine the two, and somehow that cross at Calvary combines the two, but it introduces the possibility, get this, the possibility that some of the greatest perpetrators of evil and injustice in the history of the world might, if they turn to this God of justice and mercy, actually find the very same forgiveness that you are wanting for yourself. Don't be too stingy with it. If you want it for yourself, Allow it for others, even the one who has done that great injustice against you. In fact, until you can forgive that person, you will die a bitter woman, a bitter man. You have to be able to forgive. If you can't forgive, you're stuck. What do we do? How does it work? I don't know. I just believe that God is just, and I believe that He's merciful, and that somehow those two come together. In fact, I saw it happen once. I want to move to my wrap here with this story. Another person I interviewed on our television show, her name Debbie Morris. In fact, let's put Debbie on the screen there. Debbie Morris, real-life story. Hollywood made a movie of her story. Have you heard? Did you see the movie Dead Man Walking? Yeah. Starring Sean Penn. Okay, Sean Penn plays this brutal young murderer ravaging through Louisiana. Sean Penn's real-life figure and an accomplice of his carjacked, as we call it in our culture and country, hijacked the car that Debbie, a little high school girl with her boyfriend, they're in this car, they grab it, and then they go on a crime spree. Debbie is repeatedly raped by both criminals. Finally, her boyfriend is extricated from the trunk, and in a backwoods area, he is tied up by his feet to a tree, shot in the head, and left for dead. Then they take Debbie, and through a miraculous moment, she flees her captors. They are eventually captured themselves, and they are brought swiftly to justice. And Dead Man Walking is about a Roman Catholic nun who befriends the young man on death row. He was sentenced to die, and Debbie was invited to attend, she told me this, invited to attend his execution, some sort of salving of the pain and the injustice she had suffered. She refused to go. I don't know, maybe I would have made the same decision. But even though she refused to go, she could not forget. She could not forget, and she could not forgive. But months later, this Debbie Morris made an intellectual, intentional choice, and she said, this is killing me. This is killing me. I'm going to have to come to the place in my mind and heart when I forgive that man for what he did to me. It's a powerful moment in that interview as she told the story. Powerful. But ladies and gentlemen, what happened? You saw a spirit of justice. I saw it in front of my eyes. A spirit of justice and a spirit of mercy combined at that moment. And the woman forgives the perpetrator of that crime. How can you forgive an injustice so deep and a crime so evil? I tell you what, I don't know. You just have to go to the man on the center cross. That's the only explanation I have. This God who came to earth, this God who was executed at the hand of His own children, this God who prayed on that center cross, Father, what was the prayer of Jesus? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Do you suppose that prayer took in the whole human race? I kind of imagine it must have. Forgive them all. Ladies and gentlemen, mercy toward evildoers, justice for evil, somehow in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, those two attributes are brought into perfect tension. The gift of mercy in spite of the demand of justice. Which is why tonight I want to close by inviting you to think about receiving that supernatural blending of justice and mercy. I want to end our session here with the most read and widely quoted of all the ancient lines in that book. This one's it. And I want to put it on the screen right now. It's John 3:16. It goes like this: For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish, but have eternal life. I don't know how it works, but somehow mercy and justice are joined together, and mercy triumphs over justice, just as it did in the heart of Debbie Morris. Apparently, it also happens in the heart of God Himself. Mercy triumphs over justice. And so here's my invitation. You know what I wish for you? I wish you would believe in that God. I wish you would believe enough to be able to go to Him and say, forgiveness? Are you really into forgiveness? Would you forgive me of all I've done? Go to Him and ask for that forgiveness. And then, listen, friend, not only ask for it, but receive it. Realize that He's offering you that forgiveness. And then when you receive it, I wish you would experience what I have come to experience, and that is the deepest joy and the greatest peace you will ever find in this life. Just ask for it. Try it. You have nothing to lose. Oh, yep, there will be justice in the end. There will be a judgment one day, and God will take all the sorry story of human pain, and He will tie that last loose end together. God promises that justice. But the good news is, because of His mercy, you can stand forgiven today and tomorrow and every day till the final judgment. And in that day of final accounting, no fear at all. God's mercy will triumph over justice, and you will stand forgiven forever and ever. I can't imagine a more enticing offer. I wish you would take it. I wish you'd take it right now. I wish you would ask. And in asking, receive from Him.
Well, this program has certainly raised some interesting issues. If you'd like to discuss any of them further, then please feel free to contact us. You can visit our website, or you can contact us via email, or you can give us a call. The choice is yours. We've given you all the options, but please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. The details are on the screen now. Dwight.
I want to say it again. All you have to do is ask. Surely, if the promise is true, what you ask for, you will receive from Him. Think about it, and then join us again next time for more of the evidence.
Bye for now.